Samantha here. So I have another fun experiment for you guys to do today. It's very, very easy and quick. And basically, even though it's almost the end of summer where I am, there are still some days where it can get pretty warm. So I thought it'd be fun to learn about how to make a cold pack in less than 10 seconds. Just to help cool yourself down for maybe 10 minutes or so in the hot weather. So let's get started. So for today's experiment, you only need a few things. First, you need some water, some baking soda, or also commonly known as sodium bicarbonate by its scientific name, a Ziploc bag to put everything inside of, and finally some citric acid. And what I have here is basically a drink flavoring powder mix, and it's a lemon-lime flavor. And citric acid is basically a very weak acid that's found naturally in fruits. And basically, if you can't find citric acid on its own at your local grocery store or bulk store, what you can do is check for flavoring packets like these. So what I have here is Crystal Light. And look for a more citrus flavored item. So I have lemon lime. And then the next important step to do is look at the ingredients list on the side of the label here. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the first ingredient I have there is citric acid. And basically, when you read ingredient lists like this, they'll label it and order the ingredients in terms of the largest quantity to smallest quantity. So most of this flavoring packet is actually composed of citric acid. So now that we have all of our ingredients for this experiment, the steps for it are very, very simple. And you can actually do this ahead of time, and then you can have your instant cold pack whenever you want. So basically, you're going to take your two powders, so your citric acid here, and your baking soda or sodium bicarbonate. And basically all you're going to do is just put them inside of your Ziploc bag in a 1-to-1 ratio, or equal parts. So I'm just going to dump a full packet of my citric acid in. And then I'm going to spoon out some baking soda as well. And you want to have about equal parts. And about one big spoonful, I would say, is about the same equal amount of baking soda as the drink mix. And then you're just going to seal that up. And then just sort of shake it around so that you make sure everything is nice and mixed together. And cool fact, citric acid is actually a very common sort of flavoring that you can find in a lot of sour candy. It's what gives it that sour kind of taste. So this is very safe to dispose of after the reaction is all done. And basically, you can see that it's all mixed now. And what you can do, you can just make multiples of these and set them aside and then take them out whenever you want to make your cold pack. Or what we can do is just go ahead and do the reaction now. So, right now it's kind of in a dormant state. There's no reaction going on because they're both in a powdery form. But if you then open it up and then decide to add some water to it, you don't need a whole ton amount of water, just enough to sort of cover the amount of powder that you have here to get the reaction going. And then, so all you gotta do is dump it in. And then you'll notice that lots of bubbles are forming here. So if I decided to seal this up slightly, you'll notice that the Ziploc bag starts to inflate. And that would be because of the reaction that's going on. Now, when you mix your powders together, the citric acid and the sodium bicarbonate then react, and you'll notice that now if you kind of feel the bag, it'll be kind of cool to the touch. As the reaction continues to go, it'll continue to stay cold, So with the amount I used, maybe it'll last for maybe 10 minutes. Just make sure you don't fully seal the bag up, otherwise it'll fill with a ton of gas or carbon dioxide. The reason that it's cold is because this kind of reaction is called an endothermic reaction. And endothermic essentially means that it requires heat in order to continue this reaction. So it'll take heat from its surroundings, so that would be my hands basically, and the air surrounding it. And then it'll take in that heat in order to continue the reaction, and because it's taking heat away from your hand, that makes your hand feel much cooler and colder. Thus, you get your cold pack. So let's talk a little bit more about the science behind this reaction. As you can see, it's still going, and it's very much inflated from the carbon dioxide released by the reaction. So I'm going to open it a bit to deflate it. But you can still hear the fizzing going on, and that's the gas being formed. And it's turned this very interesting greenish color because it's the coloring of the drink mix I used. Anyway, so going back to the reaction, basically you have your what we call the reactants, or the stuff that you start out with. Again, that was our citric acid, and that was our sodium bicarbonate, and then we used a little bit of water just to actually mix them properly together. For this, I used around 10 milliliters for, say, maybe a tablespoon each of the powders. And basically, once they react, as you've seen here, one of the main products, or the things that it creates after you mix it in the chemical reaction, was carbon dioxide, so all that fizzy gas that's formed. And then it also leaves behind something called sodium citrate, and that's probably what you see here. And it also has some water as a product. So as I mentioned earlier, this reaction is what we call an endothermic reaction, meaning it takes heat out from its surroundings in order to have the reaction continue on going. And then the opposite reaction of that is called an exothermic reaction, meaning it generates heat, or it gives off heat to its surroundings. And basically, some common things you can find endothermic and exothermic reactions are in those little hand packs. So if you have like a small hand warmer, and often you have to kind of crack it to mix the chemicals inside of it, what it will do is generate an exothermic reaction by mixing the two chemicals it has inside of it and release heat so that you can warm up your hands. And then for something more similar to this, an endothermic reaction would be an instant cold pack or ice pack that you might find in a first aid kit. And so it's been around 8 minutes or so, and I think my reaction is pretty much done. As you can see, there's no more bubbles being formed, and all you have is this greenish kind of liquid here. And basically, your cold pack will last you as long as your reaction continues to go on. So mine didn't last very long, but again, I didn't actually use that much reactants or amount of my sodium bicarbonate and my citric acid. So the more you use, the higher likelihood it'll last a bit longer than mine. But it's a very fun, short, easy experiment for you guys to do. Anyway, I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this experiment, and maybe try playing around with the proportions of citric acid to baking soda to see how long you can get your reaction to last, as well as how cold can you get your reaction to get. Maybe measure that with a thermometer. Anyway, let me know in the comments below how it went, and if you guys had a lot of fun with it, please make sure to like the video, and also if you want to continue having fun, make sure to just subscribe to the channel. Anyway, see you around.